Welcome back, everyone. We're going deep today, folks. Diving into the pinnacle of humanity, awareness of the highest evolution. Yeah, this book, it lays out, well, kind of a world where we're all, striving to be our best selves.
Right.
Not like a paint by numbers kind of thing.
No, not at all. It's more like think of it as a thought experiment.
Yeah, a framework for how we each grow.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that, well, it's not about reaching like some perfect state.
Oh, right, right.
It's about constantly always aiming for those qualities that make us, well, truly human,
Mm.
the ones that really, elevate us, both personally and as a society.
Okay, so the book talks about this global awakening,
Yeah.
this moment when like all of humanity just decides to go for it, the highest evolution.
Uh,
But what does that even look like, practically speaking?
well, the book makes this really interesting point. It argues that active awareness, that's the key.
Active awareness.
Yeah, it's not just about knowing things.
Or
It's
yeah.
about truly seeing ourselves,
Okay.
our thoughts, those pesky emotions, even our little habits.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like how all of that impacts what we actually do.
It's like finally figuring out why you hit snooze every morning. Or like why you always get so nervous before a big presentation.
Right. Exactly. Those patterns we don't even notice until we shine a light on them.
Oh, totally.
And once you see those patterns, well, then you can change them.
Hmm. I like that.
Take the civil rights movement, for instance.
Yeah.
That gained momentum because people became aware of how deeply unfair racial discrimination was.
Right.
Awareness sparked action.
Totally. Or think about all those efforts to protect the environment.
Exactly.
That's fueled by climate change awareness. So it sounds like awareness is the starting point.
It's the launch pad.
Okay, but then what are the like actual qualities that we should be, working on?
Well, the book, it breaks it down into 7, I guess you could say, core
For
qualities.
7.
Yeah, and they're all rooted in that awareness we were talking about. So we've got humility, curiosity, empathy, insight, nuance awareness, wisdom, and resilience.
Okay, so that's a pretty big list. Let's start with humility.
Okay.
What does like real humility actually look like in practice?
Sure.
And why is it so important in this whole, evolution thing?
Well, humility is at its core admitting you don't know everything.
Oh, I like that.
It's being open to learning from, well, anyone,
Okay.
really, regardless of their background. And the book, it argues this is the foundation of wisdom
Hmm.
because it allows you to stay open to new information.
I see.
If you're always convinced you're right,
Yeah,
you'll never truly listen to anyone else.
that's true.
And you miss out on so much. The book dives into this by, they highlight historical figures like Gandhi.
Gandhi, okay.
It wasn't just that he was humble. It was that his humility let him connect with all sorts of people.
Hmm.
That fueled his whole movement.
Oh, that's a good point. So it's not just about like being humble, it's how that humility makes things happen.
Yes.
Like building relationships, making progress.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now think about this in your own life.
Mm.
Have you ever had like a boss who thought they knew everything,
Oh, yeah, I can think of a few.
right? Versus a leader who actually wanted to hear everyone's ideas.
Totally.
That's humility in action.
Hmm.
It creates space for, well, for everyone to contribute.
Okay, so humility is like setting the stage,
Yeah.
creating an open environment.
Right.
Now, what about curiosity? Where does that fit in?
Curiosity. That's the spark.
Oh, okay.
The one that ignites all the exploration and discovery.
Uh-huh.
It's about always asking why and what if.
Right.
Even when those questions, they challenge the status quo.
It's like the difference between just accepting things as they are
Yeah,
versus, actively searching out new knowledge or new experiences.
exactly.
Right.
Imagine if inventors just accepted everything the way it was.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have the light bulb, the internet,
Mm.
all these incredible things.
Yeah, totally.
And they all came from someone asking, what if?
I love that. And, it doesn't have to be like those massive world-changing inventions.
Right.
Curiosity can be as simple as setting a small learning goal for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to learn one new fact about, I don't know, the human brain today,
Yeah.
or listen to a 5-minute podcast about something completely new.
Those small acts, they can have a huge impact.
Really?
They expand your horizons, they challenge your assumptions, and they keep you engaged with the world around you.
It's like that saying, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that kindling, that leads us to the next quality.
Mm.
empathy,
Okay.
that ability to truly understand and share the feelings of others.
Now, this feels super important, especially, these days.
Yeah.
But how is empathy different from sympathy?
Oh, good question.
Because I think, people get those two mixed up sometimes.
Sympathy is feeling for someone.
Okay.
Empathy is actually stepping into their shoes, seeing the world through their eyes.
That's harder.
It can be challenging. It means, acknowledging those shades of gray,
Yeah.
recognizing that situations and people are often more complex than they seem.
Right. So it's not about jumping in to fix things or having all the answers.
No, not at all.
It's about really listening, understanding,
Exactly.
connecting on that deeper level.
Imagine a friend is going through something tough.
Yeah.
Sympathy might make you want to offer advice or, cheer them up.
Right. Right.
Empathy means truly listening to what they're going through,
Okay.
acknowledging their pain, just being present with them in that moment.
Creating that safe space,
Yes,
for
exactly.
them to share their feelings without judgment.
Right.
And I think the book had some practical tips on how to actually do that, right?
Absolutely.
Like build that empathy muscle.
One powerful technique is active listening.
Active listening, okay.
Yeah. The next time you're talking to someone, resist the urge to jump in
Oh, that's hard.
or offer solutions.
Yeah, yeah.
Really try to focus on what the other person is saying and how they're feeling.
Mm.
You might be surprised at what you learn.
It's a good tip because I think, honestly, a lot of us, we're just waiting for our turn to talk,
Right.
not truly listening.
It's a skill. Takes practice. But the rewards are incredible. Stronger relationships, deeper understanding. You can even navigate conflicts better.
Wow, okay.
More compassion, more effectively.
So we've got humility, curiosity, empathy.
Hmm.
What's next on this journey?
Well, building on that foundation of empathy, the book dives into the power of insight.
Insight, okay.
Yeah, those aha moments.
Oh, I love that.
When you suddenly understand something on a deeper level.
Who doesn't love those moments of clarity?
Right.
When it's like the puzzle pieces all click into place.
It's a bit like seeing the Matrix.
Whoa.
Those hidden codes that explain,
Hmm.
why things happen the way they do. But insight isn't just about understanding things passively. It's about applying that understanding,
Right, okay.
making better decisions, solving problems, even strengthening relationships.
So it's not just about having that aha. It's what you do with it.
Exactly.
How you use it to actually make a positive change
Exactly.
in your life and in the world around you.
Imagine you're stuck with this recurring conflict at work.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you're clashing with a colleague and you just can't figure out why.
Hmm.
Then, boom, you have this flash of insight.
Okay.
You realize the conflict isn't about the tasks or the project itself.
Right.
It's something deeper,
Oh, interesting.
maybe different communication styles or a power dynamic that needs addressing.
I see. So you finally see the root cause.
Exactly. And then you can actually start working toward a real solution.
That actually addresses the problem,
Right.
not just the symptoms.
Exactly. And the book has some good tips on cultivating this insight.
Okay, like what?
One suggestion is to journal.
Oh, yeah.
Spend a few minutes each day just writing about your experiences.
Mhm.
See if you notice any recurring themes, any patterns.
It's like being a detective in your own life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You start to see clues, connections you might have missed before.
Okay.
And the book also talks about how important it is to get different perspectives.
Oh, right.
When you expose yourself to other viewpoints, you get a more nuanced understanding of things.
Okay.
And that often leads to those aha moments.
So it's like adding more colors to your palette,
Right.
expanding your worldview,
Exactly.
and seeing things from all these different angles.
And that brings us to the next quality, nuance awareness,
Nuance awareness.
which especially today is super important.
It does feel like everything's so, black and white these days.
Right. So polarized.
Yeah.
But nuance awareness, it's about recognizing that life is rarely that simple.
Okay.
It's about appreciating that things are complex,
Mm.
embracing the shades of gray, understanding that, most situations are multi-layered.
It's like that quote, the truth is rarely pure and never simple.
Exactly.
Right.
It's recognizing that people, situations, even problems, they often have all these conflicting interests, histories, perspectives.
Yeah.
And when you acknowledge those complexities, you make better decisions, more informed decisions,
Okay.
more compassionate decisions, and ultimately more effective decisions.
So it's like seeing the world in high definition instead of, those blurry, oversimplified versions.
Right.
But how do we actually cultivate this nuance awareness?
Well, the book had some really helpful suggestions.
Okay.
One is to actually practice considering the opposing viewpoint first.
Oh, interesting.
So before you form a strong opinion, seek out information that challenges your beliefs.
Oh, wow.
Really try to understand the other side of the argument.
That's tough.
It's so easy to get caught up in our own echo chambers,
Right.
surrounded by people who agree with us.
Yeah.
But when you expose yourself to those different perspectives, it can be really eye-opening.
Yeah, I bet.
And it's not even necessarily about changing your mind.
Okay.
It's more about developing that capacity
Yeah.
to hold multiple viewpoints at the same time.
Mm.
See the validity in different arguments.
Right.
Then you can approach those complex issues with more empathy,
Yeah.
more understanding.
So nuance awareness, it's like having a superpower almost.
It is.
It helps you see things more clearly, make better decisions, and have stronger relationships.
Precisely.
It's a powerful tool for personal growth and for creating a better society.
And it leads right into the next
You know that book?
quality. Wisdom.
Okay. Wisdom.
Now that's a word.
It is. It makes me
Yeah.
think of like those wise old sages dispensing profound advice from a mountaintop.
Haha. Yeah.
Right.
Wisdom is often associated with, age and experience.
Right.
But the book argues it's not just about how many years you've lived
Okay.
or how much you know.
Yeah.
It's about making choices that align with your deepest values,
Mm-hmm.
your long-term well-being, and, what's good for everyone, the greater good.
So it's about using your knowledge and experience to make decisions that benefit everyone,
Exactly.
not just yourself.
Imagine a young person trying to decide on a career.
Yeah.
They could go for the job that pays really well,
Mm-hmm.
the one everyone says is prestigious, but
Yeah.
what if it doesn't actually align with their passions?
Right. Or their values.
Exactly. Or they could choose the path that feels more meaningful,
Right.
even if it's less conventional or maybe, less financially rewarding in the short term.
That's a great example. It's about those choices that are authentically you,
Yeah,
even if they go against, what society expects.
exactly.
Okay.
And that often requires courage
Oh, yeah.
because you have to trust your own inner compass,
Mm.
even when everyone else is telling you to go a different way.
Okay. So wisdom's about making those brave choices, aligning our actions with what we really believe in.
Mhm.
But how do we actually cultivate wisdom? Is it something we learn or does it just, develop over time?
The book suggests that wisdom is kind of a mix of things: knowledge, experience, and reflection.
Okay.
It's about learning from your mistakes,
Oh, yeah.
finding mentors,
Mhm.
good role models,
Mhm.
and taking the time to really think about your choices
Yeah.
and their consequences.
So it's not just about gathering information. It's about processing it, integrating it with what you've lived,
Exactly.
and then using that to make decisions that actually reflect your values.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that brings us to the last: resilience.
Resilience.
The ability to not just endure challenges,
Right.
but to come out of them even stronger, wiser.
Resilience feels crucial these days
It is.
because, let's be real, life throws us curveballs,
It does.
and we need that strength to handle them.
Resilience is what allows us to adapt, to thrive, even when things get tough.
Okay.
A personal setback, a challenge at work, even a global crisis.
Yeah.
Resilience gives us the tools to get through it and come out the other side even stronger.
So it's not just bouncing back, it's bouncing back higher.
Exactly.
I like that.
And it doesn't mean you pretend everything's fine or deny the pain.
Right.
It's about acknowledging those difficult emotions,
Mm-hmm.
allowing yourself to grieve,
Yeah.
and then finding ways to keep moving forward with grace and determination.
I love that because it acknowledges that those tough times, they're part of the journey.
They are.
Right.
They shape us.
Yeah.
They teach us. They're part of what makes us who we are.
And the book had some inspiring examples too, right?
It did.
Yeah.
Like Malala Yousafzai,
Mm-hmm.
turning a tragic event into a global movement for education.
Wow.
Or Thomas Edison,
Oh, yeah.
framing all his failed experiments as steps toward inventing the light bulb.
That's amazing.
It's about having a growth mindset,
Yeah.
believing you can learn from every experience.
Even the bad ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the book makes a good point. Resilience isn't just about gritting your teeth and pushing through.
Okay.
It's also about actively developing coping strategies,
All right.
seeking support, and building a network of people who can help you get through those tough times.
So we've got those 7 key qualities.
Yes.
Humility, curiosity, empathy, insight, nuance awareness, wisdom, and resilience.
It's a mouthful,
It is.
but hey, they're pretty big ideas.
Right. They're kind of abstract concepts.
Yeah.
So how do we make them real? How do we translate those qualities into, you know, actions, things we actually do, real world change?
Well, this is where things get really interesting because the book doesn't just leave us with those abstract concepts.
Okay, good.
It goes deeper
Oh, okay.
into the specific behaviors and even mental models that can help us make those qualities, part of our lives.
Now I'm really intrigued because
Yeah.
that's what I love about this book. It's not just like airy fairy ideals.
Right.
It gives you a roadmap, actual tools you can use to become a better version of yourself.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork there with those 7 qualities.
Right.
But how do we actually build on that?
Well, that's where the behaviors come in. The behaviors. Okay.
The book outlines five key behaviors, I guess you could say,
Okay.
that help us, really live out these qualities in our daily lives.
Okay. Let's hear them.
So we've got reflection, learning, listening, action, and teaching.
Okay. So it's like taking those kind of abstract ideals and turning them into things we can actually do.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about making them real.
Okay, let's start with reflection then. What does it mean to really reflect?
Mm.
And why is it so important for, this whole personal growth thing?
Well, reflection is kind of like hitting the pause button,
Okay.
taking stock, examining your experiences, your choices, even those little everyday interactions.
Mm.
Not to dwell on the past or anything,
Right.
but to try to extract the lessons.
So it's like looking in the rearview mirror, not to get stuck back there, but to see what's behind you and learn from it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine you have a tough conversation with someone you care about.
Yeah.
Instead of letting those emotions just, fester, you take some time to think about it.
Okay.
What went well?
Mm.
What could you have done differently?
Mm.
How could you approach a similar situation, with more skill next time,
Yeah.
with more compassion?
It's like turning those experiences, even the hard ones, into fuel for growth.
Yes, exactly.
But sometimes reflecting can be tough, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's easy to get stuck in that self-criticism spiral
Mm.
or just dwell on those past mistakes.
Well, that's where that self-compassion piece comes in.
Oh.
Reflection shouldn't be about beating yourself up.
Okay, yeah.
It should be more about approaching those experiences with curiosity, with
Yeah.
a genuine desire to learn.
So it's like being a scientist in your own life.
Yes,
Right. You're observing the patterns, you're gathering the data, and then using that information to make adjustments. That
exactly.
make improvements.
And it doesn't need to be a big formal thing.
Yeah. Even just jotting down a few key takeaways from your day
Hmm.
or spending, a few minutes in quiet contemplation.
Yeah, yeah.
That can be really powerful.
Okay, so we've reflected, we've hopefully gained some insights. Now what? Where does learning fit in?
Well, learning builds on that reflection. It's about really embracing this mindset of continuous growth,
Okay.
always seeking out new knowledge, new skills, new experiences.
And that can look like so many things, right?
It can.
It's not just about, reading books or taking classes.
No, not at all.
It's about engaging with the world around you,
Mm.
talking to people with different perspectives,
Yeah.
traveling to new places, immersing yourself in different cultures.
The book encourages us to think of learning as an adventure,
Ooh, I like that.
a lifelong pursuit of discovery and growth.
Yeah, it's like creating this mosaic of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
right? Each
Yeah.
experience, each interaction adds another piece to the overall picture.
Exactly. But it's important to remember, learning isn't just passively absorbing information. Right, okay.
It's about actively engaging with that knowledge,
Yeah.
putting it into practice.
Yeah, making it real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And using it to make a difference in the world.
Which leads us to the next behavior, right? Listening.
Yes.
Listening. Now, this one seems, I don't know, deceptively simple,
Right.
but I have a feeling it's a lot more profound than we might think.
It really is.
Mhm.
In a world where we're constantly bombarded with information,
Yeah.
opinions,
Oh, yeah.
true listening has become, it's become a rare skill
Mm.
and a precious one.
Okay.
It's about moving beyond just hearing the words
Right.
and really tuning in to the speaker's message,
Mm.
their emotions, their perspective.
So it's about creating that space where the other person feels heard,
Yes,
truly understood.
exactly.
But that takes effort, right? We have to quiet our own minds,
Mhm.
set aside our judgments, our desire to be right.
It's about shifting from, I guess you could say a me-centered focus to a you-centered focus.
Yeah, and that's hard.
It is, especially in a culture that often rewards those who are quick to speak and slow to listen.
So true. So listening, it's more than just taking in information.
It is.
It's about building connections,
Mm-hmm.
fostering trust, showing respect for the other person's experience.
It's foundational for empathy, for collaboration, for resolving conflicts effectively.
Mhm.
And it's a crucial ingredient for the next behavior.
Which is,
Action.
okay, action. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road, right?
Pace.
All the reflection and learning and listening in the world won't matter if we don't actually, do something.
Right. Action bridges that gap between our ideals and our impact.
Hmm.
It's about taking our knowledge, our values, our intentions,
Yeah.
and turning them into tangible results.
So it's about moving beyond those like passive shoulds
Yes.
and taking concrete steps to create the change we want to see.
The book uses this great analogy.
Oh, okay.
It compares it to a garden.
A garden.
I can have all the best intentions in the world, all the seeds, all the tools.
Hmm.
But if you don't actually plant those seeds, water them, tend to the garden.
You won't get anything.
Exactly. Nothing will grow.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that action is what makes those ideas come to life.
It is.
It nourishes those seeds of potential,
Yeah.
helps them blossom into something beautiful.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be about those big heroic gestures either.
Oh, okay.
Action can be found in the small everyday choices we make.
Okay.
It's about those consistent efforts, those daily habits that align with your values
Mhm.
and move you closer to, to where you want to be.
So, like, if you're passionate about, say, sustainability,
Yeah.
maybe you start composting, cutting back on plastic, supporting local businesses.
Right.
Or if you're committed to, social justice, maybe you volunteer, donate to a cause you believe in, speak out against injustice when you see it.
Exactly. Those are all powerful examples of how action, even in seemingly small ways, can ripple outward and create positive change.
I like that saying, what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
And that brings us to that last behavior,
Okay.
teaching.
Teaching. Now, this one might feel a little, I don't know, intimidating to some people
Yeah.
because not everyone sees themselves as a teacher.
Yeah. This is where the book really challenges us to expand our definition of teaching.
Okay, how so?
It's not just about standing in front of a classroom
Right.
or having some formal title.
Yeah.
It's more about sharing your knowledge, your skills, your experiences,
Okay.
but in a way that empowers other people to learn and grow.
So, like that saying, each one, teach one.
Exactly. We all have something to offer, something we can share that might help others.
It could be something as simple as like explaining a concept to a coworker or mentoring someone younger, sharing a book that inspired you,
Yeah.
or even just like modeling those qualities we've been talking about, humility, curiosity, empathy.
Exactly. It's about those ripples spreading outwards, impacting everyone around us.
But it can be hard to know where to start, How do we actually do this teaching thing?
Well, the book reminds us that teaching doesn't need to be some big grand gesture.
Okay, good.
You don't need a formal title. It's more about those everyday interactions,
Okay.
those little moments where you can offer support, share a bit of wisdom, or just, inspire someone to learn something new.
So those little acts of kindness, those moments of connection,
Yeah,
where we share our gifts and our knowledge.
exactly. And everyone has something to teach.
Oh, that's true.
We all have unique experiences, perspectives, insights, things that can enrich other people's lives.
Okay, so we've got reflection, learning, listening, action, and teaching. Those 5 behaviors, they kind of give us the framework to bring those 7 qualities to life.
They do.
But the book also dives into these fascinating things called mental models, right?
Yes.
And I'm really curious to understand how those fit into all of this.
Well, mental models are essentially the lenses through which we view the world.
Okay.
They shape how we think, how we process information, how we make decisions.
So they're like Instagram filters for our minds. They color how we see things.
They do. They color how we see things, how we interpret our experiences.
And the book talks about 4 specific mental models that are really helpful on this journey, right?
It does.
Okay, hit me with the first one.
The first one is first principles thinking.
First principles thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, break that down for me.
Sure. First principles thinking is about, it's about breaking down complex problems or ideas into their most fundamental truths.
Okay.
It's about questioning assumptions, peeling back those layers of conventional wisdom, and getting to the heart of the matter.
So it's like being a detective, but for knowledge.
Yes, exactly.
You're searching for the core truth.
Those like foundational elements that can't be broken down any further.
A great example of this is, well, Elon Musk.
Oh, okay. Elon.
He used first principles thinking to completely revolutionize, the space industry
Mm.
and electric vehicles.
Right.
He didn't just accept the existing limitations, of rocket technology or battery design.
Hmm.
He asked, what are the fundamental laws of physics here?
Wow.
And built his solutions from those core principles.
That's amazing. So it's about approaching problems with a fresh perspective,
Exactly.
challenging those assumptions we often just, take for granted.
Imagine you're trying to solve a problem in your own life.
Okay.
Maybe you're feeling stuck in your career
Yeah.
or struggling in a relationship.
Hmm.
First principles thinking could help you break that problem down into its most basic parts,
Okay.
strip away those layers of complexity and those limiting beliefs that might be holding you back. So it's about getting to the essence of the issue, seeing those fundamental truths that can lead to a better solution.
Precisely.
Oh.
And that brings us to the next mental model,
Okay.
which is
Systems thinking.
systems thinking. Okay. Now, this one, it feels especially relevant right now.
It is.
Everything feels so interconnected, so complex.
Systems thinking is all about seeing that bigger picture,
Mm.
understanding how the different parts of a system interact,
Okay.
how they influence each other. It's about recognizing that our actions, even those small choices, they create ripple effects.
It's like that butterfly effect.
Mhm.
One tiny action can set off a chain reaction that impacts like the whole system.
Exactly.
Okay.
The book uses the example of choosing to buy food from local farmers.
Okay.
That decision doesn't just affect your health. It also impacts the local economy, reduces carbon emissions from transportation, and encourages more sustainable farming practices.
Wow. It's like those dominoes falling one after another.
But with systems thinking, we can actually see those connections,
They can.
those interdependencies, those
Mhm.
unintended consequences that we might otherwise miss.
Imagine you're trying to make a change in your community,
Okay.
maybe advocating for a new park or trying to improve public transportation.
Right.
Systems thinking would help you see how that initiative fits into the larger ecosystem of your city, how it might affect different groups of people,
Yeah.
how you can create solutions that benefit the whole system,
Right.
not just one isolated part.
So it's about zooming out, seeing those connections, understanding those feedback loops,
Exactly.
and recognizing that our actions, they have consequences that go beyond, just ourselves.
Precisely. And that leads us to the next mental model, second order thinking.
Second order thinking, okay. What does it mean to think in second order terms?
Second order thinking is about taking that extra step to consider the long-term and indirect consequences of our choices.
Oh, okay.
It's about asking, what happens next?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens after that?
It's like playing chess.
Yeah.
You have to think several moves ahead,
Exactly.
anticipating those chain reactions that could happen.
It's recognizing that the most obvious solution, the one that fixes the immediate problem,
Mm-hmm.
that might not actually be the best solution in the long run.
Can you give me an example of how that plays out?
Sure. Imagine a city decides to build a new highway
Okay.
to help with traffic congestion.
Yeah, makes sense.
Seems logical, right? But a second order thinker would also consider those potential ripple effects.
Okay.
What about the impact on local businesses?
Mm-hmm.
The environmental consequences of more cars on the road?
Yeah.
What if the new highway actually encourages more people to drive?
Oh, right. So you could end up making the traffic even worse.
Exactly.
Wow.
So second order thinking helps us avoid those short-sighted decisions.
Right.
It helps us consider those long-term implications.
That might not be obvious at first.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, measure twice, cut once. But in this case, it's think twice, act once.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to that final mental model,
Okay, hit me.
inversion.
Inversion. Okay. Now this one, it sounds kind of mysterious.
It does a bit, doesn't it?
What does it mean to think in an inverted way?
Inversion is approaching a problem from the opposite direction.
Okay.
Instead of asking, how do I achieve success?
Right.
You ask, how could I fail?
Whoa. Okay. So it's like flipping the script, thinking backward from that desired outcome to identify the obstacle.
Precisely.
Okay.
By figuring out those potential points of failure, those roadblocks,
Mm-hmm.
we can actually take steps to avoid them. or, to lessen their impact.
It's like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Exactly.
Right.
Inversion helps us anticipate those challenges and prepare for them.
Instead of just crossing our fingers and hoping for the best.
Right. It's a great tool for managing risk, solving problems, even for clarifying your goals.
So how could we use inversion in like our everyday lives?
Let's say you're planning a big event,
Okay.
a wedding, a conference.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of focusing on everything that needs to go right,
Right.
you could use inversion to think about all the ways things could go wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
What if the weather's terrible?
Hmm.
What if the sound system fails?
Oh, yeah.
What if people get sick or there's a miscommunication about the schedule?
Okay. So by thinking about those potential problems,
Mm-hmm.
you can create backup plans,
Exactly.
make sure things run more smoothly.
And the book emphasizes that inversion isn't about, being negative
Oh, okay.
or getting paralyzed by fear.
Right, right.
It's about using that awareness of potential challenges to make smarter decisions and create more robust plans.
Okay, so we've explored these four mental models. First, principles thinking, systems thinking, second order thinking, and inversion. It feels like, I don't know, we've been given this whole new toolbox
Right.
to think more critically, make better choices, navigate this complex world. But the book also recognizes that even with these tools, we might still hit some bumps in the road, right?
Yeah.
On this journey towards our best selves. Yeah, it's like we've been given this amazing toolkit, but also being told, hey, the road might be bumpy.
Right, exactly.
So how does the book deal with those, potential roadblocks, those challenges we might face on this whole like personal evolution journey?
Well, it acknowledges that the path, it isn't always easy.
Okay.
And it breaks down the challenges into two categories, internal barriers and external barriers.
Okay, let's start with the internal stuff. What are the things inside us that can hold us back?
Well, the book points to four main culprits:
Okay.
fear, ego, complacency, and negative self-talk.
Sneaky little saboteurs.
Right. They can trip us up even when we have the best intentions.
So true. Okay, let's unpack those a bit. Fear, that seems like a pretty universal experience.
Oh, it is.
How does the book suggest we deal with those fears that, might be holding us back?
Well, it starts with acknowledging that fear is a natural human emotion.
Right.
It's part of our survival instincts.
Okay.
But when fear gets out of control, when it becomes irrational, it can really paralyze us.
Yeah.
It can stop us from taking risks, trying new things, pursuing our dreams.
It's like that feeling of being stuck in quicksand.
Oh,
The
yeah.
more you struggle, the worse it gets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the book makes a distinction, too, between healthy fears and unhealthy fears.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Like what?
So healthy fears, those are the ones that keep us safe.
Right. Like fear of physical danger.
Exactly. But then there are those unhealthy fears.
Yeah.
The ones that limit our growth.
Okay. So like fear of failure, fear of judgment, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay. So how do we tell the difference? And how do we actually overcome those unhealthy fears that are, holding us back?
The book suggests we start by really understanding where that fear is coming from. What's the root? What are the beliefs or maybe the experiences that are fueling it?
Okay.
And once you understand that source, you can start to challenge those limiting beliefs and come up with ways to manage that fear.
So it's like shining a light on those shadows, right?
Yeah.
Exposing those fears, maybe realizing they're not as scary as we thought.
Yes,
Yeah.
precisely. And it's not about getting rid of fear completely.
Right.
It's more about learning to dance with it,
Oh, I like that.
acknowledge it,
Yeah.
and then choose to move forward anyway.
It's like that saying, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Exactly.
But it's not just about being blindly courageous, right? It's about developing those coping skills,
Right.
the tools and strategies that help us actually navigate those fears.
It could be something as simple as taking a few deep breaths,
Okay.
reframing the situation more positively, or breaking down a big, scary goal into smaller, more manageable steps.
Oh, those are good tips. Okay, so we've talked about fear. What about ego? How does our ego get in the way of our growth?
Ego's a funny one. It's a bit of the double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, a healthy ego gives us confidence, self-esteem.
Right.
But when our ego gets too big, when we start believing we're better than others or we resist feedback, that's when it becomes a problem, a real roadblock on this journey of personal evolution.
It's like that saying, pride comes before the fall.
Oh, yeah.
When we're too attached to being right, too defensive, or too focused on what other people think, we close ourselves off to learning and growth.
Imagine you're in a meeting and someone disagrees with your idea.
Mm-hmm.
An inflated ego might make you defensive or dismissive.
Right.
But a humble approach would be to really listen to their perspective, consider their feedback, be open to the possibility that you could learn something.
So how do we keep our egos in check? How do we cultivate that healthy sense of self-worth without, letting it become arrogance or resistance to growth?
The book has a few ideas. One is to actively seek out feedback, especially from people who might see things differently than you.
Hmm.
Another is to practice admitting when you're wrong.
Oh, that's hard.
It is, but it's important. Acknowledge your mistakes.
Hmm.
Be open to learning from them.
So it's about cultivating that humility again, right?
Exactly.
Recognizing that we don't have all the answers. There's always more to learn.
And that leads perfectly into the next internal barrier,
Hmm.
complacency.
Complacency. This one feels, I don't know, almost like a silent killer.
It is.
It's not as dramatic as fear or ego, but it can be just as damaging.
Oh, absolutely. Complacency is about settling, getting too comfortable where you are,
Hmm.
losing that drive to improve, to grow.
It's like reaching a plateau on a hike. You can enjoy the view for a bit, but eventually you got to keep moving if you want to reach the summit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And complacency can sneak into any part of our life.
Right.
Maybe you reach a certain level of success in your career and you stop pushing yourself.
Mm.
Stop learning new skills or taking on those bigger challenges.
Yeah.
Or maybe you settle into a routine in your relationships and stop putting in the effort to keep those connections strong, keep them growing.
So how do we break free from that complacency trap? How do we rekindle that motivation and keep moving forward?
The book suggests setting challenging goals,
Okay.
goals that push you outside your comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
the kind that make you stretch and grow.
Mm-hmm.
It also talks about the importance of seeking out new experiences,
Okay.
traveling to a new place, learning a new skill, even just talking to people from different backgrounds.
It's about disrupting that routine, right?
Mm.
Shaking things up a bit.
Yeah,
Creating opportunities for growth and expansion.
exactly.
Mhm.
And it's about remembering that, well, your potential is limitless.
I like that.
There's always more to learn, more to achieve, more to contribute.
Okay, so we've talked about fear, ego, and complacency. What's that last internal barrier?
The final one the book dives into is negative self-talk,
Yes, the inner critic.
right? That voice in your head whispering all those doubts and anxieties.
We all have it.
We do. And the book makes a good point. While a little self-reflection, a little constructive criticism can be helpful,
Yeah.
when it becomes too much, when it gets too harsh, it can really do some damage.
It's like having this constant stream of negativity playing on repeat.
Exactly.
Wears you down.
It erodes your confidence, sabotages your efforts.
Okay, and how does negative self-talk actually show up?
Oh, it can take so many forms. You might tell yourself you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy of success. Or you might dwell on past mistakes, replaying those failures over and over, convincing yourself you're doomed to repeat them.
So how do we quiet that inner critic? How do we cultivate a more, supportive inner voice?
The book suggests starting by just becoming more aware of that inner dialogue.
Okay.
Notice those negative thought patterns,
Mm-hmm.
those automatic responses that pop up when you face a challenge or make a mistake.
It's like becoming a mindful observer of our own thoughts,
Right.
noticing them without judgment.
Exactly. And once you're aware of those patterns, you can start to challenge them.
Okay.
Ask yourself, are these thoughts really true? What evidence do I have to support them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is there another way of looking at this situation?
Yeah, it's about replacing those negative thoughts with more positive ones, more encouraging ones.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, maybe you try saying, I'm learning and growing every day.
Oh, I like that.
And the book emphasizes self-compassion here too,
Right.
treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a friend.
So it's not about pretending everything's perfect or denying our imperfection.
No, not at all.
It's about acknowledging our struggles, offering ourselves grace, and then choosing to focus on those thoughts and beliefs that, that lift us up, that support our growth.
Exactly. And that brings us to that second category of barriers, the external ones.
Okay, external barriers. Now, these are the things we can't always control, right?
Right.
The societal structures, the cultural norms, the systems that can, create roadblocks on our path.
Exactly. And while we can't always change those external factors overnight,
Yeah.
becoming aware of them is a really important first step.
Okay.
It helps us navigate them more effectively.
Yeah.
And it helps us advocate for a more just and equitable world.
So, what are some of the external barriers the book talks about?
Well, it highlights four key ones: cultural norms, systemic inequities, distractions, and the fear of judgment.
Okay, let's start with cultural norms.
Mm.
What are those, and how can they become barriers to personal growth?
Cultural norms are those shared beliefs, values, expectations that shape how we behave.
Mm-hmm.
They influence our choices.
Right.
And while some cultural norms can be really positive, really supportive,
Okay.
others can be, well, they can be pretty restrictive.
Okay.
They can limit our opportunities and prevent us from expressing our true selves.
So they're like those unwritten rules of society that tell us what's acceptable, what's expected, what's considered normal. And sometimes those norms, they can be pretty limiting, especially if they don't align with our own values or our aspirations.
Imagine a culture that places a high value on, fitting in, on conformity,
Hmm.
and discourages individuality.
Okay, yeah.
That can make it really tough for people to pursue their passions or express their unique talents.
Right. Or a culture that's all about competition instead of collaboration.
Yes,
That can create a really cutthroat environment where people are afraid to ask for help or share their ideas.
precisely. And the book emphasizes that the first step towards overcoming these cultural barriers is to become aware of them,
Okay.
to recognize those unwritten rules that might be, influencing our choices, even when we don't realize it.
It's like shining a light on those invisible fences, those limitations we might have accepted without even questioning.
Exactly. And once you're aware of those cultural norms, you can start to make conscious choices about which ones you want to embrace and which ones you want to challenge.
So it's not about, rebelling against all cultural norms.
Right.
It's about being more mindful, making choices that are true to you, choices that align with your values and your aspirations.
Exactly. And it's also important to remember that cultural norms, they're always evolving.
Oh, that's true.
What might have been unacceptable or considered weird a generation ago might be perfectly normal today.
Yeah.
So it's about being part of that conversation,
Yeah.
pushing those boundaries, creating a culture that's more inclusive, more supportive of everyone expressing themselves.
Okay, so we've talked about cultural norms. What about systemic inequities? How do those external factors create barriers to personal growth?
Well, systemic inequities are those deep-rooted injustices,
Hmm.
the ones that create unequal opportunities
Right.
and limit the potential of entire groups of people.
So we're talking about like the big systemic issues, right?
Yes.
Racism, sexism, classism, ableism.
Exactly.
Those systems of oppression that create barriers based on someone's race, gender, sexual orientation, their socioeconomic status or the disability.
Precisely. And the book emphasizes that these systemic inequities, they can have a huge impact on people's ability to thrive, to reach their full potential.
It's like trying to run a race with weights strapped to your ankles.
Right.
Even if you're super talented and determined, those systemic barriers can make it so much harder to succeed.
And the book acknowledges that, addressing these issues, it's not simple.
It's complex.
It's complex. It requires both individual action and collective efforts to really dismantle those structures of oppression.
So it's not just about changing hearts and minds, it's about changing the systems themselves.
Yes.
Right. The laws, the policies, the institutions that perpetuate these inequalities.
It requires us to acknowledge our own privilege, use our voices to advocate for change,
Mhm.
support organizations and individuals who are working to create a more just and equitable world.
So it's about recognizing that our own personal growth journeys, they're connected to these larger societal issues.
They are.
Right. And that part of reaching our highest evolution, it means working to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Precisely. And that brings us to the third external barrier the book explores.
Okay, which is
Distractions.
distractions. Oh, this one feels so relevant.
It is.
Right, we're constantly bombarded with information, notifications, entertainment.
All the time.
It's hard to stay focused, to be present with all that noise.
And the book argues that those distractions, they can really drain our energy.
Yeah.
They fragment our attention. They pull us away from the things that are truly important.
It's like trying to have a depth conversation in a crowded, noisy room.
Right.
You can barely hear yourself think, let alone connect with the other person.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes that, reclaiming our attention, it's crucial for personal growth. It's about becoming more mindful of how we spend our time, identifying those things that are, those distractions that are sucking away our energy,
Hmm.
and then creating space for those activities that really nourish us.
So it's about setting boundaries.
Yes,
Right. Turning off those notifications, being more selective about what we read, what we watch, making time for things that bring us joy, that connect us to our purpose, that help us recharge.
exactly. And the book suggests we approach this with a sense of curiosity, a sense of experimentation.
Oh, I like that.
What activities really give you energy?
Hmm.
What environments help you focus,
Yep.
help you feel creative?
Yeah.
What boundaries do you need to set to create that space for deep work, for meaningful connection?
It's about like designing our lives in a way that supports our growth,
Hmm.
that allows us to be fully present.
Exactly. And that leads us to that last external barrier,
Okay, which is
the fear of judgment.
yes. The fear of judgment, that one feels so, so deeply human. Right. We all want to be liked, accepted, respected.
Hmm.
And sometimes that fear of what other people might think, it can really stop us from being ourselves, from going after our dreams.
It can be a powerful force.
Yeah.
And the book acknowledges that, it's natural to care what others think.
Right.
We're social beings, wired for connection.
Yeah.
We want to belong.
But when that fear of judgment takes over,
Hmm.
it can paralyze us.
It can. It can stop us from taking risks, sharing our ideas, or just being authentically ourselves.
And what does the book suggest for dealing with that?
Well, it says that overcoming this fear starts with cultivating self-compassion.
Okay.
It's about being kind to ourselves, recognizing our own worth, remembering that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be imperfect.
It's about shifting that focus, right? From needing external validation to finding it within ourselves.
Exactly. It's recognizing that your worthiness, it doesn't depend on what other people think of you.
And the book reminds us that true belonging, it doesn't come from trying to fit in, trying to meet other people's expectations.
Right.
It comes from embracing who we really are.
Exactly. Those unique qualities, those quirks that make you you.
It's about finding those communities, those groups of people who celebrate individuality,
Hmm.
the ones who create space for people to just be themselves without that fear of judgment.
And it's about recognizing that the opinions of others, they're just that, opinions. They don't define you.
It's like that saying, what other people think of me is none of my business.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the book encourages us to actually reframe those fears of judgment as opportunities for growth.
Oh, interesting.
Every time you choose to be authentically yourself, to go after your passions, to take a risk, you're strengthening your courage
Mhm.
and moving closer to living a life that's true to you.
So we've explored those four external barriers: cultural norms, systemic inequities, distractions, and the fear of judgment. And while we can't always control those external forces, we can learn to navigate them.
We can.
Right. And the book gives us tools to do that
Yeah.
and to advocate for a better world.
It reminds us that even with all these challenges, we have the power to make choices,
Mm-hmm.
choices that are in line with our values, to
Mhm.
chase our passions, to contribute to a world that reflects our highest aspirations.
It's like we've been given a map and a compass,
Hmm.
and now it's up to us to chart our own course, to navigate those challenges and embrace those opportunities for growth.
Exactly. And the book leaves us with one final question. What one small step can you take today to embody one of these qualities?
What a powerful question.
Right.
It brings it all back to that personal level. This journey isn't about some abstract ideal or a far off destination.
Mhm.
It's about the small daily choices we make,
Yes.
the consistent efforts that over time create real change, positive change.
And that's what's so beautiful about it. When we embrace this journey, this journey towards our highest evolution,
Mhm.
we don't just improve our own lives. We contribute to a more harmonious, more purposeful future for everyone.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the pinnacle of humanity. What a fascinating exploration of those qualities, behaviors, and mental models that can help us unlock our potential,
Yes.
help us create a better world.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you.
And with all of you listening, until next time, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep evolving.